Welcome back to the Wild West Stories. To begin today's journey into the old frontier, I want to tell you the story of a young woman who spent her last $2 to buy a dying slave at an illegal auction, never knowing the man in chains was actually an Apache prince. That single decision would change her fate forever. And if you still remember those stories about the handsome Apache warrior, then stay with me until the very end, because this tale may surprise you more than you expect. Now then, let's begin. By the time the sun crawled over the red cliffs outside Black Creek, Ava Bennett had already burned her fingers twice, spilled coffee on one rancher's boots, and lied to 3 customers about the diner's biscuits being fresh this morning. They were not fresh this morning. They were barely fresh this week. Still, the cowboys ate them anyway. Ava moved between the tables with a coffee pot in one hand, and exhaustion dragging behind her like a second shadow. The diner smelled of bacon grease, dust, and tired men. Outside, wagon wheels rattled through the dry street, while the morning wind pushed tumbleweeds against the saloon across the road. More coffee. "Miss Ava," an old cattle driver called. "You trying to stay awake or trying to die slower?" she asked. The man barked a laugh. That was Ava's gift, if life insisted on kicking her in the teeth every day. She figured she might as well laugh while bleeding. By noon she was hauling wet laundry behind Mrs. Porter's washhouse, her arms aching as she scrubbed shirts in boiling water. By sunset she was serving whiskey at the Lucky Coyote Saloon, while drunk miners argued over cards and railroad workers stared too long at her legs. 3 jobs every day, and still not enough, because her father, God rest his useless soul, had loved gambling more than breathing. When Tobias Bennett died 6 months ago, he left Ava exactly 3 things: a falling-apart cabin, a silver pocket watch that no longer worked, and $600 in debt. $600. Might as well have been $6 million, especially when the debt belonged to Walter Grady, Black Creek's meanest loan collector. Ava returned home close to midnight, carrying stale bread wrapped in cloth. The moment she reached her porch, she stopped. Her front door hung crooked on one hinge. Again. Oh, for the love of inside. Her tiny cabin looked like a tornado had learned how to drink whiskey. Broken plates littered the floor. A chair had been smashed against the wall. Her mattress had been cut open, stuffing everywhere. Then she heard boots behind her. Walter Grady stepped from the shadows with 2 large men beside him. "Well now," he said with a grin full of tobacco stains. "Look who's finally home." Ava crossed her arms tightly. "If you boys are done redecorating, I'd appreciate it if you left before I charge rent." One of the men laughed. Walter didn't. "You're late on payment again. I'm aware. You got 3 days left." "Ava." Her stomach tightened. "And if I don't?" Walter stepped closer. "Then maybe we stop taking furniture and start taking you." Silence filled the cabin. Ava forced herself to smile anyway. "Well," she said softly, "that certainly puts pressure on a girl to moisturize." But after they left, the smile disappeared. For the first time in her life, Ava Bennett truly had nowhere left to run. The next morning, Ava Bennett made a decision she hated herself for before she even finished making it. By sunset, she was walking toward the livestock yard at the edge of Black Creek, with her stomach tied in knots and dust collecting around the hem of her faded blue skirt. The farther she walked, the uglier the town became. The decent buildings disappeared first, then the church, then the families. Out near the rail tracks, Black Creek turned rotten. Men drank openly in the streets. Horses with visible ribs stood tied beside muddy troughs. Smoke drifted from cheap gambling dens while somewhere nearby a woman laughed too loudly at a joke that probably wasn't funny. Ava shoved her trembling hands into her coat pockets. "This is temporary. She muttered to herself, "Just talk to somebody. Don't panic. Don't cry. If possible, don't throw up." The auction yard sat behind an old livestock pen, surrounded by warped wooden fences. Hosties. Lanterns hung from posts, casting yellow light over mud, whiskey bottles, and rough-looking men. Ava immediately wanted to leave. Unfortunately, leaving would not solve $600. A heavyset man stood on a wagon shouting prices while people were traded the same way cattle were. Workers, runaways, prisoners, desperate people with nowhere else to go. Ava's chest tightened. She wrapped her arms around herself and stayed near the back of the crowd, trying not to think too hard about what she was doing there. Then the shouting changed. "Last lot of the night," the auctioneer barked. "Apache male, strong build, hard worker. If you can keep him alive long enough." The crowd shifted. Two men dragged someone forward in chains. Ava froze. The Apache man stumbled hard into the mud. Silver restraints clamped around his wrists and ankles. His dark hair hung loose around his face, partly hiding bruises along his jaw. He looked half dead. But even kneeling in the dirt, there was something dangerous about him, something proud. The auctioneer kicked his shoulder. "Mean bastard, nearly killed 2 buyers already," he announced. "No one wants him. So final offer." The crowd stayed silent. Ava noticed why. The silver. Not ordinary chains. Silver restraints. Cruel ones. The metal had burned angry red marks into his skin. The Apache man lifted his head slightly. Dark eyes, sharp as knives. Not begging. Not afraid. Just tired. $3, the auctioneer yelled. Silence. Fine. $2. Still nothing. The auctioneer cursed under his breath and reached for the pistol at his belt. "Well, if nobody wants the savage, I ain't feeding him another damn day." Ava's pulse jumped. The Apache man did not move, did not plead. He simply knelt there in the mud, waiting to die. Something about that broke her heart clean in half. Ava turned away quickly. No, no, absolutely not. She started walking. 1 step, 2, 3. Her mind raced desperately. If she worked every single day, no rest, no sickness, no accidents, maybe 3 years. 3 years and the debt could finally disappear. 3 years was better than dying now. Keep walking, she whispered to herself. But behind her, the auctioneer pulled back the hammer of the gun. Click. Ava stopped moving. Oh, damn it all. She spun around and marched back through the crowd before her common sense could tackle her to the ground. $2, she shouted. The yard went quiet. The auctioneer blinked. "You buying him?" Girl Ava dug into her pocket with shaking fingers and pulled out 2 wrinkled silver dollars, the last money she had in the world. She slapped them into the man's hand. "Yes," she snapped. "Before my brain starts working again." A few men laughed. One muttered, "Poor fool." The auctioneer unlocked the chain connecting the Apache man's ankles. "Congratulations," he said with a grin. "You just bought yourself trouble." Ava looked down at the silent man, still kneeling in the dirt. He slowly raised his eyes toward her. Lord above, even exhausted. He looked terrifying. Ava swallowed hard, then sighed. "Well," she muttered, "that was probably the stupidest thing I've ever done." The walk back to Ava's cabin was the longest bad decision of her life. The Apache man walked beside her silently, chains rattling softly around his wrists, while the evening wind carried dust through the streets of Black Creek. Ava kept glancing at him, then immediately regretting it. He was tall, taller than most men in town, even half-starved. He moved like something dangerous, trying very hard not to look dangerous. Meanwhile, Ava was 5 feet 4 inches of poor choices. She tightened her grip on her coat. "Well?" she muttered nervously. "This is awkward." No response. "I should probably explain a few things before you murder me." Still nothing. Ava nodded to herself. "Good. Glad we're communicating." The Apache man kept walking in silence. Ava assumed he either didn't speak English, hated her, or had already died and was haunting her specifically. Honestly, all three seemed possible. "You should know," she continued. "I'm not exactly rich. In case the broken shoes and emotional instability didn't give it away." Silence. "My house also leaks when it rains, and occasionally when it doesn't." Nothing. Ava sighed dramatically. "Fantastic. I bought the quietest man in Arizona." When they finally reached her cabin, she stopped on the porch and stared at the broken front door, still hanging sideways from its hinge. "Well," she said, "welcome home to disappointment." She pushed the door open. The cabin looked exactly as miserable as she remembered. Moonlight spilled across broken furniture and patched walls. Wind slipped through cracks in the wood, carrying the dry desert cold inside. The Apache man stepped in slowly, his sharp eyes scanning everything. The damage, the poverty, the loneliness. Ava suddenly felt embarrassed, which annoyed her immediately, because she had nothing left to impress anybody with anyway. She knelt beside him and awkwardly unlocked the silver restraints around his wrists. The second the chains fell away, angry burns covered his skin beneath them. Ava winced. Sweet Lord. The marks looked painful enough to make her own wrists ache. "I don't know why anybody uses silver on people," she muttered. "Seems rude." The Apache man flexed his hands slowly for the first time. Ava stood and brushed dust from her skirt. "So," she said quickly, avoiding eye contact. "Before this gets strange, I should explain something." He looked up at her quietly. "I didn't buy you because I wanted to own you." The words came out rushed. "You can leave whenever you want. I'm not keeping anybody prisoner in this house, frankly. I can barely afford myself." Still silent, Ava pointed upward. "But before you leave, you should probably fix my roof." She crossed her arms. "Feels fair considering I spent my last $2 on you." The Apache man stared at her for a long moment. Then finally he spoke. "Thank you." Ava nearly jumped out of her skin. "Good Lord." She stumbled backward so fast she hit the table. "You talk." The man blinked once. "Yes." Ava pressed a hand dramatically against her chest. "I thought you were mute." "No." "Well, that's somehow worse, because now I have to feel embarrassed about everything I said." The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Not quite a smile, but close. Ava pointed at him accusingly. "You could have warned me earlier. You were talking too much." She stared at him, then burst out laughing despite herself. "Okay," she admitted. "That's fair." For the first time since her father died, the cabin did not feel completely empty. The silence between them wasn't cold. It was strange, unexpectedly comfortable. Ava grabbed an old blanket from a chair and tossed it toward him. "You can sleep there." Then she pointed toward the roof. "And tomorrow, you become a carpenter." The Apache man caught the blanket easily. "What is your name?" he asked. "Ava Bennett." He nodded once, then quietly said Kai. Ava smiled faintly. "Well, Kai, welcome to the worst financial investment of my life." And for the first time all night, Kai almost smiled back. Ava woke before sunrise the next morning, to the sound of hammering. For one terrifying second, she thought the debt collectors had come back to destroy the rest of her house. Then she remembered. Right. The Apache. She sat up slowly on her narrow bed and rubbed sleep from her eyes. Pale morning light slipped through the cracks in the cabin walls, while the smell of fresh wood drifted through the air. More hammering. Ava stumbled outside wearing mismatched socks and yesterday's dress, then stopped dead on the porch. Kai stood on the roof, shirtless, beneath the rising Arizona sun, repairing the broken boards above her bedroom. Ava blinked. Well, that was certainly unfortunate for her concentration. The man looked carved from desert stone. Broad shoulders, lean muscle, long dark hair tied loosely behind his back, and silver burn marks still wrapped around his wrists like angry ghosts. Kai noticed her staring. "You said fix the roof." Ava cleared her throat immediately. "Yes. Right, the roof. I was definitely looking at the roof." Kai gave her a look that suggested he did not believe her for even 1 second, which was rude. By the time Ava returned from her morning shift at the diner, the cabin looked completely different. The broken chair had been repaired. The front door now closed properly. The floor had been swept clean. Even the crooked table no longer wobbled. Ava slowly turned in a circle. What in the name of hard-working witchcraft? From outside came the sound of chopping wood. She stepped through the doorway and found Kai, splitting logs beside the cabin with calm, effortless swings of the axe. A pile of firewood already sat stacked neatly against the wall. Ava crossed her arms. "You know," she said. "Most men in Black Creek can barely repair their own pants." Kai glanced at her. "Then your town has weak men." She laughed before she could stop herself. That evening, Ava returned from the saloon exhausted enough to collapse face first into the dirt. But the second she opened the cabin door, she froze. The smell hit her first. Roasted quail, fresh herbs, smoke from a cooking fire. Ava stared at the small table near the window. Dinner waited there. Actual dinner, not stale bread, not cold beans, real food. Kai sat quietly near the fire sharpening a hunting knife. "You hunted?" she asked. "Yes." "You cooked?" "Yes." Ava narrowed her eyes suspiciously. "You trying to impress me?" "No." "Good," she said quickly, "because it's working a little." Kai looked almost amused again. "Almost." Ava sat down carefully and took a bite, then immediately groaned. "Oh, this is unfair." Kai looked up. "What, you cook better than me?" Silence. Then, "That does not seem difficult." Ava pointed at him dramatically with her fork. "You're getting dangerously close to being funny." For the first time in years, dinner did not feel lonely. The tiny cabin felt warmer somehow, alive. Ava hated how much she liked it. The knock on the door came hard enough to shake the walls. Ava's smile disappeared instantly. She knew that knock. Walter Grady. Kai looked up from the fire as Ava slowly stood from the table. Fear flashed briefly across her face before she hid it behind a tired expression. "Stay here," she whispered. Kai said nothing. The door burst open before Ava could even reach it. Walter stepped inside, with 2 large men behind him. The smell of whiskey and cigar smoke filled the tiny cabin. Walter's eyes swept across the room before landing on Ava. "You've been avoiding me," he said coldly. "I've been working. You've been hiding." Ava folded her arms tightly. "I told you I need more time." Walter walked closer until she could smell alcohol on his breath. "You already ran out of time." One of the men beside him kicked aside a chair and laughed softly. Kai remained silent near the fire, watching everything carefully. Walter glanced toward him. "So this is where your money went?" His voice turned cruel. "Buying savages now." Ava stepped in front of Kai immediately. "He's leaving tomorrow." She lied quickly. "You got your message across. Now get out of my house." Walter's face darkened. Then suddenly, he grabbed Ava by the hair. Hard. Ava cried out as he yanked her toward him. Pain exploded across her scalp. "I am tired of your smart mouth." Walter hissed. "Maybe it's time somebody taught you some respect." Kai stood slowly. The room changed the moment he moved. Not loudly, not suddenly, but something dangerous filled the air. Walter's men noticed it too. Their smiles faded. Kai's dark eyes locked onto Walter's hand tangled in Ava's hair. "Let her go," he said quietly. Walter sneered. "Or what?" Kai took one step forward. Walter pulled Ava harder, making her gasp in pain. That was enough. Kai crossed the room in an instant. His hand locked around Walter's wrist with crushing force. A sick crack echoed through the cabin. Walter screamed and released Ava immediately, before the other men could react. Kai drove his elbow into one man's throat, then slammed the second into the wall hard enough to shake dust from the ceiling beams. The fight lasted less than 30 seconds. When it ended, Walter and his men were sprawled across the floor, groaning in pain. Kai stood over them, breathing hard, his expression cold as stone. Ava stared at him in shock, one trembling hand still pressed against her head. Walter struggled to rise. Kai grabbed him by the collar and forced him back down. "If you touch her again," Kai said quietly, "I will bury you in the desert where nobody will ever find your bones." Walter's face went pale. For the first time since Ava had known him, the man looked afraid. Kai released him roughly. "Leave." Walter stumbled toward the door with his men following behind him. None of them looked back. Silence filled the cabin after they disappeared into the night. Ava slowly sat down in the nearest chair, still shaken. Kai turned toward her. "You are hurt." She swallowed hard and shook her head. "No." Her voice cracked slightly. "I'm okay." Kai knelt beside her and gently moved her hand away from her hair. His jaw tightened when he saw the red marks on her scalp. Ava looked at him quietly. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" Kai's eyes lowered for a moment. Then he answered, "I was born to lead Apache warriors." Ava frowned slightly. Kai looked toward the dark window. "My father was chief of our people. After his death, leadership should have become mine." His voice hardened. "But my younger brother betrayed me. He poisoned me, then sold me into slavery." Ava stared at him in silence. Outside, the desert wind moved softly through Black Creek. Then suddenly, Ava let out a quiet breath and shook her head. "You really expect me to believe that?" Kai met her eyes calmly. "One day," he said, "I will take back everything that belongs to me." Ava studied him for a long moment. The bruises, the scars, the strange sadness in his eyes. Then she leaned back in the chair and muttered softly, "So let me understand this correctly." Kai waited. "You're telling me I bought some kind of Apache prince beside a horse stable for $2? "Yes." The answer came without hesitation. Ava stared at him, then laughed once in disbelief, exhausted more than amused. "This is insane." "It is true." She rubbed her forehead tiredly. "Sure. And maybe tomorrow I'll find out my cabin secretly belongs to the governor." Kai's expression never changed. "You saved my life." Ava Bennett, for the first time all night. His voice softened. "One day, I will repay that debt." Ava looked at him quietly across the firelight, then finally whispered, "Maybe you really believe that." Later that night, long after Kai laid down near the fire, Ava remained awake staring at the ceiling, because deep down for the first time, she was beginning to wonder if he might actually be telling the truth. Ava woke to silence. No hammering, no crackling fire, no quiet footsteps moving around the cabin. Just silence. She blinked sleep from her eyes and slowly sat up beneath the thin blanket. Pale morning light spilled through the window beside her bed. "Kai," she called groggily. No answer. A strange disappointment settled immediately in her chest. Ava frowned at herself. "Well, that's ridiculous," she muttered. "You've known the man 2 days." She climbed out of bed and looked around the cabin. His blanket near the fire was folded neatly. The hunting knife was gone. So was he. No goodbye. No note. Nothing. Ava crossed her arms tightly. Fantastic, she said to the empty room. Apparently, I rescue one mysterious Apache prince, and he vanishes like a dramatic outlaw in a cheap novel. Still, the cabin felt different now. Better. The broken shelves had been repaired properly during the night. Fresh water sat in buckets beside the door. A stack of chopped firewood rested outside under a tarp to keep it dry. And on the table, wrapped carefully in cloth, sat cooked rabbit meat and warm fry bread. Food for her. Ava stared at it quietly, then sighed. You couldn't even leave badly, she mumbled. She sat down slowly at the table. The cabin suddenly felt too empty, too quiet, and annoyingly lonely. Ava tore off a piece of bread and leaned back in her chair. He probably ran halfway to Mexico already. She told herself. Good. That was good. One less mouth to feed. One less problem. One less dangerous man sleeping on her floor. So why did the silence bother her so much? Outside, the Arizona wind swept dust through Black Creek, while the morning sun climbed slowly over the desert. Somewhere far beyond those red mountains, Kai was already gone. And Ava Bennett had no idea that the strange Apache man she bought for $2 was about to change both their lives forever. 3 months passed. 3 long, exhausting months. Life in Black Creek returned to its usual misery. Ava worked herself half to death every day while pretending everything was perfectly fine, which it absolutely was not. Walter Grady stopped visiting personally after Kai broke his nose. But the debt still remained. Interest kept growing like weeds after rain. Ava tried not to think about Kai. Unfortunately, her brain ignored that request completely. Sometimes while serving coffee, she remembered the quiet way he sat near the fire. Sometimes while repairing laundry buttons, she remembered his almost smile. And every single time her roof didn't leak during rain, she thought about him, which was deeply annoying. Then the rumors started. Travelers passing through town spoke about fighting in the mountains north of Arizona territory. Apache warriors gathering. A war between brothers, a rightful heir returning. Ava overheard the stories at the saloon one night, while carrying whiskey. They say the older brother came back from the dead. One cowboy whispered, killed 6 men alone. Another claimed, people are calling him Ghost Wolf. Ava rolled her eyes immediately. Men really will nickname anything dramatic. Still, her stomach tightened anyway. A week later, Black Creek woke to the sound of horses. Lots of horses. Ava stepped outside her cabin and froze. Riders filled the dusty street. Apache warriors, strong, silent, armed. People across town peeked nervously through windows while merchants hurried indoors. And at the center of them rode Kai. Ava's breath caught. He looked completely different. No chains, no bruises, no exhaustion. He sat tall on a dark horse, wearing black and deep red clothing, stitched with tribal patterns. Silver decorated the leather across his chest, while the morning wind lifted his dark hair behind him. But his eyes were the same. Calm, sharp, dangerous. Kai dismounted slowly in front of her cabin. The entire town watched in stunned silence. Ava crossed her arms quickly. Well, she said, trying very hard to sound normal. You clean up suspiciously well. For the first time, Kai smiled fully. It nearly ruined her ability to think. He walked toward her carrying a heavy leather bag, then placed it gently into her hands. Ava frowned. What's this? Your debt. She blinked. Excuse me. Open it. Ava untied the bag carefully. Silver and gold coins gleamed inside beneath the sunlight. Enough money to change her life. Enough money to erase every debt her father ever left behind. Her mouth slowly fell open. You weren't joking. Kai looked at her quietly. I told you I would repay what I owed. Ava stared at the money, then at him, then back at the money. Finally she whispered, Sweet Lord. And for the first time in years, Ava Bennett realized she was no longer poor. The entire town kept staring. Ava wished they would stop. Unfortunately, it was difficult for Black Creek citizens to ignore 20 Apache warriors, expensive horses, and one terrifyingly handsome man standing outside the house of the town's poorest woman. Walter Grady looked especially close to fainting, which honestly improved Ava's mood considerably. Kai's men waited silently down the street while he stood in front of her porch like he belonged there. Ava still held the heavy bag of coins against her chest. You actually came back, she said quietly. Kai looked at her as though the answer should have been obvious. I gave my word. For some reason, that affected her more than the money. Ava swallowed and glanced away quickly. Well, she muttered. That was very inconvenient of you. Kai's eyebrow lifted slightly. You are unhappy, no, she admitted. That's the problem. A small smile appeared on his face again. Lord above. That smile ought to be illegal. The Arizona wind moved softly through the dusty street, while people continued pretending not to watch them. Kai stepped closer to the porch. When I left, he said, I believed I would never return here. Ava's teasing expression softened. What changed you? The answer came so simply that it stole the breath from her lungs. Kai looked toward her small cabin, the repaired roof, the crooked porch, the tiny home where she had treated a broken stranger with kindness when nobody else would. You saw a man everyone feared, he said quietly, and still chose mercy. Ava looked down awkwardly. Well, you did look pathetic at the time. Kai huffed a quiet laugh. It startled her more than the fighting ever had. Then his expression turned serious again. My people ask me to choose a wife. Ava blinked once. That feels important. It is. Kai stepped onto the porch until only inches separated them. His dark eyes never left hers. In my tribe, the wife of a leader is not chosen for wealth. Ava's pulse quickened. Good, she whispered nervously, because that would have been embarrassing 3 days ago. Kai ignored the joke entirely. She is chosen for strength, loyalty, heart. The world suddenly felt very still. Then Kai reached into his coat and placed 2 silver dollars into Ava's palm, the same amount she once spent to save him. You gave these away without expecting anything in return, he said softly. Ava looked up at him. Kai's voice lowered. Come with me, Ava Bennett. Her heart nearly stopped. Come home with me. Silence. Then Ava laughed suddenly through tears gathering in her eyes. This is insane, she whispered. Yes, you're basically proposing marriage right now. Yes, Ava stared at him for one long breath, then smiled, slowly, warmly. Well, she said, curling her fingers around the 2 silver dollars. Turns out buying an Apache prince was the best decision I ever made. And this time Kai laughed too. The warm desert wind carried the sound across Black Creek as the sun began to set behind the Arizona mountains. And for the first time in a very long time, Ava Bennett finally looked toward the future without fear.